Here's something unusual dating from 1973. The Reader's Digest is a magazine that has been in existence since 1922, a pocket-sized journal of articles, quizzes, amusing anecdotes, and perhaps most famously a regular feature called Increase Your Word Power, designed to improve the vocabulary of readers. It's also well known for publishing condensed books, which are essentially shortened versions of best-selling novels with all the dull bits, or what the Reader's Digest editors consider the dull bits, removed, which as a writer strikes me as a very rum business indeed. And finally, Reader's Digest has published its own original books, of which this is probably the best known. Folklore, Myths and Legends of Britain, a massive volume of popular scholarship drawing on the expertise of academics and folklorists, storytellers and artists, as well as a few more controversial figures, some of whom were not entirely above making stuff up, to create a beautifully illustrated, if not always completely reliable guide to the folklore of England, Scotland and Wales. I've drawn upon it for a number of books, including The Land of Lost Things, that novel, I think, more than any other. So you have sections on gods, ghosts and witches, on water guardians, the wizard Merlin, and one of my particular favourites, the cult of severed heads. It even has an entry on unidentified flying objects, which is perhaps stretching the definition of folklore a bit. Does it matter that not all of it is dependable? I don't think so. If you approach it as a collection of sagas and superstitions, many of which have been passed down for centuries, often as part of oral traditions, and which were not always overly indebted to truth to begin with, not unless you accept the objective reality of phantom huntsmen, ghost ships and mermaids, then it's hugely entertaining and informative, and actually trustworthy more often than it's not. But I think Folklore, Myths and Legends of Britain is at least as interesting for what it represents. A belief that the past is never really very distant from the present, and beneath our feet lies layer upon layer of history, what the folklorist George Evans once described as the pattern under the plough. We are creatures of story, each of us a character in an unfolding narrative of our families, our cities, our world. Books like this represent a kind of shadow history of what we were, what we believed, and perhaps what we may continue to believe, given half a chance. Copies of Folklore, Myths and Legends of Britain turns up pretty regularly in used bookstores and charity shops. If you're lucky enough to come across a copy, I think you should pick it up. You won't be disappointed.